Chapter 12. The Molten Beast. Baal was the god of prosperity. As the lord of rains and fertility, he represented increase, gain, and profit. The belief that he could bring fruitfulness to one's fields and vineyards was among the strongest of his appeals and weapons in his battle against the God of Israel. American idols. The lure of Baal had always been a present danger in American culture. For any nation so blessed with material prosperity as was America, there would always be the risk that its prosperity would become an idol, and that it would turn to the God of increase and gain. But with America's departure from God in the late 20th century, the spirit of Baal became ascendant. Unlike the ancient apostasy, the spirit would not be centered on the fruit and yields of the earth, but on their modern equivalents, financial seeding and yield, monetary profit, increase and gain. It had the trappings of a new religion, a cult of success, and a doctrine of materialism and greed. In the scriptures, God is called the Almighty. In a revealing choice of words, America dubbed its own currency, the almighty dollar. The spirit of Baal could not be contained in the halls of business. It was everywhere. Americans pursued money, served money, and were driven by money, and worshipped money as much as the ancients had worshipped their idols. American life became increasingly monetized. The spirit of Baal even went to church. As in ancient times, when Baal worship was added to the worship of God, so now the doctrines of Baal, the pursuit of material prosperity and personal gain and success above all things, invaded the sanctuary. And so, what could have been a protection and antidote against the invasion was compromised. The bull god. Baal was typically portrayed as a bearded and helmeted figure, holding a spear of lightning in his upraised hand. Some of his images showed the horns of a bull coming up from his head or helmet. Baal's preeminent symbol was the bull. The bull embodied his power and his connection to fertility. So his idols came in the form of the helmeted man, but also in the form of a bull of metal or clay. It was America's financial realm, and in particular its stock market, and more in particular Wall Street, that epitomized the unadulterated pursuit of money. It was there that the spirit of Baal, as it related to a nation's yield and prosperity, most clearly manifested. The prosperity of the stock market had long been tied to the prosperity of America as a whole. It was therefore striking that the symbol that had come to embody the prosperity of the stock market in America was the bull. Of course, the bull did not come to Wall Street because anyone was seeking a connection with Baal. Nevertheless, it did come. And the fact that the symbol of American prosperity was the same ancient symbol of national prosperity, and that it was so without any conscious intent, is even more striking. If the American stock market appeared heading toward increase, gain, and prosperity, it was the market of the bull market. So Baal's ancient symbol became not only an American symbol, but one that embodied the same realm and dynamic as it had in ancient times. The eagle and the apostasy. But the appearance of the bull in ancient Israel was a symbol as well of something else, a nation's apostasy from God. More specifically, the bull was the symbol of a nation that had once known God, that had once been consecrated to his ways, but now had forgotten him. It was the sign of a nation that had rejected him to follow other gods. So it was in ancient Israel, and so it would be again in America. The younger version of the bull was also critical in Israel's history. The Hebrew word egel refers specifically to a young bull, a male calf, also known as a bull calf. In Israel apostasy from God at Mount Sinai, the people created a golden eagle, a bull calf, so the calf or young bull became the symbol of national apostasy. The sign of a nation's departure. Centuries later, Jeroboam, leader of the rebellion that split the kingdom of Israel in two, erected two golden calves, one at each end of his kingdom. He then called his people to worship them as their gods. The bull or bull calf again became the sign of a nation's fall from God. The apostasy at Sinai and of Jeroboam involved an image of molten metal, so to the worship of Baal involved the making of molten bulls for the purpose of worship. So Israel in its fall from God worshipped bulls and calves of molten metal. After the destruction of Jeroboam's kingdom, the writer of 2 Kings would write, "So they left all the commandments of the Lord their God, made for themselves a molten image, and served Baal." Thus the sign of a nation that has left his commandments, his word and ways, is the appearance of the molten image, and specifically the molten image of a bull, or a young bull, the bull calf. If America was now the nation that was departing from God, and if the spirit of Baal had now come to indwell it, is it possible that the sign of Baal would follow? If the image of a molten bull was to appear in America and be linked to the same spirit to which it was joined in ancient times, the spirit of materialism and gain, it would be a sign of a nation that had once known God but had turned away and was now worshipping another god, Baal. Materialization. The sign appeared. The site of its materialization was the financial district of New York City, just outside the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street. It appeared in December of 1989. It was massive, 11 feet tall and 16 feet long. It weighed 7,100 pounds. It was a molten image in the form of a giant beast, a bull, the sign of Baal. It would later be moved to a location where it could stand as a permanent landmark of New York City, but it would remain in the city's financial district not far from the stock exchange, and the most massive and concrete symbol ever to represent Wall Street. Thus the sign of Baal, the god of increase and gain, will be linked to the New York Stock Exchange, America's house of increase and gain. The image was described as a symbol of aggressive financial optimism and prosperity. The words themselves were a modern recasting of the power of the ancient god, though meant to encourage the nation. The sign was menacing. The bull's nostrils were flaring as if ready to attack. One observer described the molten creature as an angry, dangerous beast. Another described it as embodying an aggressive or even belligerent force. The other image. On the day it appeared on Wall Street, the bull was not alone. There was another image overlooking it. It was the statue of the nation's first president, George Washington. The bull appeared on the ground on which America came into existence as a constituted nation. It was there that Washington was sworn in as the nation's first president. After being sworn in, Washington delivered a prophetic warning. He said, in effect, if America ever turned away from God and his eternal laws, its blessing would be removed. It was an echo of Winthrop's earlier warning against ever turning to other gods, our pleasure and profits. And now, standing across from the statue that commemorated the day and place in which Washington gave that prophetic warning against turning away from God, was the sign that the nation had done exactly that. It had turned away from God. The American Baal. So the sign of Baal that had once appeared in the high places and sacred pagan grounds of the Middle East now appeared in America. As in ancient times it appeared in molten metal. In fact, the ancient bulls of Baal were often of molten bronze, so the bull that appeared in New York City was also of molten bronze. It was the American incarnation of Baal. It was as well the American version of the golden calf, the ancient biblical sign of a nation that had once known God and had fallen away, and that another God had mastered it. In ancient Israel, the molten bull constituted a tangible image and sign of the possessing God, but his impact and effect upon the nation was much deeper. What about the return of Baal to the modern world? What was his deeper impact on America and the West? It is that to which we now go as we undergo a paganization of America.